Hey you guys, Steve of my house, bidding you welcome. Bit of an impromptu video here. I've got a shirt that doesn't actually fit me anymore. It's really big on me. That's the kind of stuff I wear to work. The point of this video is to show you games, horror games that are on the Nintendo Wii. There are a decent amount of horror games for Nintendo Wii. I was actually pretty surprised going through my collection how many there are. I believe I have every horror game released on the Wii, but we shall see. If you guys know one that isn't on this list, definitely let me know. And if you don't hear me talking about it, that means I don't have it. First up, there are 5 Resident Evil games on the Nintendo Wii. I don't have the port of Resident Evil on the GameCube because I have Resident Evil on the GameCube and I don't see a need to own it on the Wii. But in saying that, I do have Resident Evil 4, the Wii edition. This edition actually uses the Wii remote to aim, so it does have advantages over the controller version. It's actually probably the best version of the game as far as like aiming goes, because if you have a Wii Motion Plus, then it's really spot on where you're aiming, and you can't blame dodgy gameplay for your bad aiming. It's a great game. If you ever played Resident Evil 4, you know it's a great game. If you haven't, get onto it. It's really, really worth playing. It's a bit of a departure from the games that came before it. It's a bit more action-based than horror, but it is still very good. The games that came after it, not so much. Resident Evil 4 is fantastic. It's also very long. I believe this is over 20 hours. A lot of bosses to battle. The stages are stunning, especially when you get into that like big building and you're going around these like old cathedral looking places. Really cool, really enjoy this one. One negative thing I will say about it, it does get old to have to protect someone throughout most of the game, but it is still fun. I have another one here, Resident Evil Zeros, as part of the Resident Evil Archive set, which also contains Resident Evil, the first one. This one is pretty good. You swap between 2 characters on the fly, and so say you're doing a puzzle, one character might have to flip a switch in one room to open a door for another person, that kind of thing. It's not difficult like the others, but it is very, very good. Resident Evil 0 is definitely worth playing. I believe this one was originally made for the GameCube. I do own the GameCube version. I got it while I was in the UK, back when GameCube games were a bit cheaper. And now GameCube and Wii games are skyrocketing in price. God damn. Definitely check this one out if you can. It's going to be a good one in your collection. And it's a good game to play. They changed the zombies in that one to be like slug zombies. It's a bit strange, but still fun. I'm going to show both of these in one go. This is Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles and Resident Evil The Darkside Chronicles. These are light gun games for the Nintendo Wii, and they are fantastic. I love these games. I believe this one has the storylines from Resident Evil 0, 1, and 3 or something like that. And then this one is a like brand new game. He plays Leon in this one. I think he plays Jill in this one. I don't remember. I don't know if these were released simultaneously beside each other. They couldn't have been released very far apart, but they are completely different games. This one says 2007, this one says 2009, so maybe there was a bit of a gap actually. I like gun games on the Wii, they work really well. They're definitely all worth playing, especially the horror ones. There's 5 horror light gun shooters on the Wii. Yeah, light gun games, they're so much fun. That's a genre that needs to come back, light gun games. I mean, I don't think I've ever played a bad light gun game. They're all fun. We'll show the other light gun shooters. We have these 2 here. House of the Dead 2 and 3 Returns and House of the Dead Overkill. House of the Dead 2 and 3 Returns is awesome. It's basically just the 2 arcade games. House of the Dead 2 is pretty difficult. House of the Dead 3 is amazing. I love House of the Dead 3. Yeah, you're shooting zombies, it's fast arcade action. You're gonna want to play 2-player on this, even if it's just you holding the 2 guns, or if it's you and your significant other playing with the guns. You're gonna have a better time than just single player. It's awesome. It's very tongue-in-cheek. Like, there's a comedy to it that doesn't seem like it's a comedy, if that makes sense. Like, it's very serious for what it is, but it's goofy serious. Like that. If you know a lot of the games on the Dreamcast, it's that style of comedy where it's very, very serious, but obviously supposed to be taken as complete satire. It's hilarious. Speaking of which, House of the Dead Overkill. This is a House of the Dead game set in a Dawn of the Dead style world where it's like the 70s, and it's awesome. Like, you play as a I forget who you play as, but all of the human characters in this game are like amazing stereotypes of 70s action movie characters. This is like a special edition that comes with a little comic book. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's just something to get you started in the game world. Prelude to an Overkill. Introducing Vala Guns, starring Isaac Washington. And here's the official game. And it's awesome. This one's super cheap too. I think you can get House of the Dead for like $10 shipped. And it's an essential game to play on the Wii. It's so much fun. This is also on the PlayStation 3, but the PS3 one is a bit harder to get going because you need to use the Move controller. And the last light gun game, Dead Space Extraction. This one is much slower than the other light gun games, but it is still pretty good. This is before the Dead Space series kind of fell off the cliff with Dead Space 3. This is like a prequel to the other games, so you kind of see how the initial spaceship was manifested by, what do they call these ones? I actually forget what the enemies in Dead Space are called, but like the human monsters. They're kind of like zombies actually. It's a lot slower. Good game though still. In this game you have to shoot limbs, so headshots and stuff, body shots, they don't count for much. Like, if you shoot out the enemy's limbs, it does a lot more damage, so you have to properly aim for them. Manhunt 2, this is definitely a horror game in that many horrific actions happen within it. I don't remember if this is the censored version or not. There is definitely a version of this that is censored. Oddly enough, this was not released for PS3 or Xbox 360, which is strange because it definitely came out when those systems were out. Obviously, the sequel to the fantastic Manhunt, probably the best gritty game on PS2 Manhunt is. It's just so good, and that bloody Pigman boss, that thing is terrifying. Took me a long time to beat that. The gun controls in this one are much better. It's just like kind of over the shoulder kind of view. It is good, really good, but it just doesn't have the lasting effect of Manhunt, the first one. It feels a bit maybe soulless compared to the first one. Like, you could tell they weren't putting their heart into it. Or maybe they didn't have the time to make the game that they wanted to make, and unfortunately there were no more Manhunt games after this game, which is a shame because I do consider this to be a good game. Oh, you cannot get this in Australia. You either have to import it or get it from overseas. Although I'm not even sure if you can import this. It's a game it's a banned game here, but you are allowed to own it. It's a weird law. It's like you can own something, but you can't sell it or publicly air it or anything like that. Like, you can have it in a private collection. It's a strange thing, but it's how it is. I read up on it ages ago. It's same of like media, like you can own banned books here. They used to ban a lot of books in the 70s, but you can still own them. You just can't buy them. I think they think because you can't buy them, that's going to stop most people from getting a copy, and people who have a copy are just going to have it in their collection anyway. It's a strange law. Not a great game. Cursed Mountain, it's just very boring. Like, you're fighting ghosts in this, you're fighting these weird demon shadow things, there's boss fights and stuff. It's okay. You use the Wii remote a lot in this. If you're looking for a horror game where you have to do a bloody workout to play it, this is probably one for you. But it's just not a fun game to sit down and play for a long time. If you're doing like 30-minute bursts, you're gonna have a fun time. But if you're sitting down to try and really sink your teeth into it, you know, it's very shallow. Combat's very shallow. You play as a mountaineer looking for your lost brother in the mountains of, what is it? Probably Mount Everest, I don't know. Yeah. Deep Silver. There's your seal of the opposite of quality. Another game very much like Cursed Mountain. It's not necessarily a horror game, but I am putting it in this list because it's very dark. You know, there's a lot of monsters in the game. It's post-apocalyptic. You know, it has a lot of elements of horror, but it's not a horror game per se. Fragile Dreams, Farewell, Ruins of the Moon. This is one that everyone who sees the cover goes, oh my god, I've never heard of that game. And then when they pay the big price to get it and try it out, they find out, oh, it's not very good. I did finish this game. It took ages, man. It was such a slog. I did this in 1 hour bursts. I would just play an hour a day and just try and chug through it. It's an action RPG set in a kind of horrific world where most humans are gone. You only meet a couple more humans, but I think most humans have been destroyed. It doesn't say in the beginning what killed them, it does later, so I won't spoil it. But your journey is to kind of find this woman that you saw, and you're just trying to find her because man seeks company. That's how it is. It's good. No, it's not good. It's got good aspects to it. The graphics are very good for the Wii. There's a lot going for it. There's some gameplay elements that are really good. Characters are all very interesting and fleshed out. I believe this has the first gay kiss in a video game ever. But it's just not very fun to play. But it is complete. If you want to give it a go, I'd say probably pay 20 or less for this. It's just not worth the prices it's going for. I feel like if the developers had more time or more expertise in just crafting a combat system and crafting level design, it would have been a very, very good game. But as it is, it's just one and done, and it's okay. This one's incredible. Project Zero 2, there are no bad Project Zero games. Known as Fatal Frame in the United States. I'm not sure why it's called Project Zero in Australia, but it is. This is a kind of reimagining of Project Zero on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. It's very, very good, but it doesn't have the same kind of gameplay as the other one. This one is more of an over-the-shoulder style. The gameplay is similar to like Resident Evil 4, and it was released in 2012, so that is after Resident Evil 4 and after a lot of games had taken elements from Resident Evil 4. But the main game is still pretty much the same. You know, you have the camera obscura, you take the photos of the ghosts to do damage to them. You let them get closer to you so that you can do more damage, but you also risk the take the risk of them hitting you if they get too close. It is very good. Very, very good. Definitely check it out. I don't know if it's rare or expensive, but it is a crazy good game. A pretty early release for the old Nintendo Wii. This was also on PS2, like a very late release for the PS2 and an early release for the Wii. This is Obscure 2. I don't know why this wasn't on Xbox 360 and PS3. It would have been way better. I don't think this uses the Wii remote very much, so it doesn't really need to be on the Wii at all. But it's a sequel to the first Obscure game, which is a crazy cool game. Basically a Resident Evil style game where you play as horror movie teenagers. It's fun, it's really fun. It's pretty ridiculous. You switch between these characters. Each character has their own kind of gameplay quirk, similar to a Sweet Home style, where one character can do one thing, another character is good at another thing. Like, I think one character can pick locks, another character can bust out windows, stuff like that. It's worth playing. It's super cheap, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's worth anything. It's also on PS2. Definitely give it a go. That's another one. I don't know why this one wasn't more well received, or I think this was well received, but it just didn't garner a whole lot of attention. 2008, it may have been sandwiched between some big releases, so it probably didn't get the love it deserved. This game's incredible. Escape from Bug Island. I don't care what anyone says about this. Yes, by logic, this is a objectively bad game, but logic does not take into consideration the fun you have playing it. It's crazy fun. The creepiest survival horror game for Wii. You're on an island full of giant bugs. Come on, it's something like straight off of the Dreamcast. Like, if you showed me this game and said, yeah, it's on the Dreamcast, I'd believe you, because it plays just like one of those old Dreamcast games. Like, if you've played like Blue Stinger or Illbleed, it plays just like them. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, or if it was just completely accidental. This game has a lot of tongue-in-cheek. Like, it is bad to a fault, but it's also meaning to be bad. And as I said, I had a lot of fun playing it. It's just fun, man. You live to watch the cutscenes in this game. It's so funny. I definitely love it. Speaking of which, I'm not sure if this one is worth anything anymore. This one used to be very, very hard to find. Very rare, very expensive. I think I paid over $40 for this years ago, and back then that was considered a good price. I had to get the Continental Europe version because it was cheaper, but this version is still completely in English. And it is Calling. A lot of people don't like this game. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a first-person horror game where, like, you go around these corridors. Most of the levels are corridors. The level design is not fantastic, but it's got a very good charm to it. It's also it's a time capsule kind of piece where everyone has a flip phone, and every now and again you get like a call on your phone. You'll get like messages, photos, stuff like that, showing you where to go, what's going on. Ghosts will contact you through the phone, stuff like that. You're basically set up in this curse where your character gets teleported to these various areas. One is a school house, one is an apartment, one is a hospital. I don't remember everything about the story, but I do remember enjoying it at the time. And it's just a first-person horror game. You walk around in first person, ghosts attack every now and again. I don't believe you can defend yourself in any way, so you just have to run away from the ghosts. I enjoy horror games a bit more when combat is disincentivized, if that's the right word. Like, you're not supposed to fight enemies, because honestly in most of these situations, if you were being faced with a ghost or a monster, you'd be an idiot to fight it. Like, what are you gonna do if a bear attacks you? Try and punch it in the face or run away? I really enjoy it. I'm not sure if it's expensive, but it is definitely worth playing. It says Hudson and Konami on the back, so this might be the only game where they work together to make it. It's interesting. I really enjoy it. And probably the best horror game on the Wii, which isn't saying a whole lot. I mean, it comes down to this one or Project Zero. It is the remake of Silent Hill Shattered Memories. This is another game where it disincentivizes, you're not incentivized. Is that the word? I don't know. You're not supposed to fight enemies, and you can't fight enemies in this game. It's set up into like 3 segments. The first segment is you're in this psychologist's office, and he's doing like a psychiatric evaluation on you. Depending on the answers you give him, apparently things in the game change. I've honestly never noticed on my 2 playthroughs that there was any difference. But when you get to the second segment, you're wandering around the town of Silent Hill. It is just the first Silent Hill game, but remade. You know, you play as Harry, you look around for what's her name? Not Cheryl. Cheryl's the police officer. Have you seen my daughter? That character. And in the third segment, after you've gotten to a certain point in the story, like you get to this major revelation in the story, you get to the third segment where the world kind of freezes over, and you enter the other world. But the other world is like this frozen hellscape, like bottom layer of hell, and pale monsters start to attack you, and you basically just run away. It's not all that scary because you know that you're not going to die in 2 of the segments you're in. And in the third segment, it is very exhilarating though. It's a lot of running. Yeah, when the world freezes over, run. It says it on the back. It is very good. There are some stressful situations. Like, I remember you're trapped in a car trying to escape, and there's water seeping in all the time. And, like, before you like get out to escape, you have to like manually undo your seatbelt, like try to roll the windows up really fast to stop the water getting in, stuff like that. It was very cool. I wish there were more kind of segments like that. It would have made for a much more engaging experience. But it is a great game. Definitely worth playing. Not as good as the first Silent Hill, but no one expects it to be. It's a Wii game. But yeah. There you go, that is all of my horror games for the Wii. I think this is all of the horror games for the Wii, except for that original Resident Evil. Let me know what you think. If you know any horror games for the Wii that I don't have, definitely let me know. I'm after all of them. But for now, see you at my house, bid you guys farewell. I hope you've been enjoying these different style videos. Unfortunately, a lot of shops still aren't open here. I'm hoping that op shops and all of that will be open starting next weekend, as I'm not sure if you people overseas have been getting these notices, but Australia is doing amazing with the coronavirus. You know, no deaths for only a handful of deaths for the last couple of weeks. Very few new cases. Our active cases are going down steadily, so they're slowly opening stuff back up, which is just awesome. Because I've been enjoying this, but I also enjoy going out and doing things like everyone. But yeah, let's see you at my house. Bid you guys farewell. Have a good one. Stay safe. Wash your damn hands, you filthy animals.